The Grand Hall of the Earth Defense Council fell silent as Captain Thomas Reed walked to the center of the floor. His footsteps echoed against the marble walls, each step feeling heavier than the last. The 12 council members looked down at him from their elevated seats, their faces showing various degrees of skepticism and irritation. Reed took a deep breath, his hand steady as he activated his data tablet. The holographic display sprang to life, showing ancient star charts and fragmentary ship logs. His career, perhaps humanity's future, depended on the next few minutes. Council members, 3 days ago, our deep space sensors detected an alien fleet approaching from the Orion Arm. Initial estimates suggest over 500 warships. He paused, letting the information sink in. Our entire fleet combined couldn't stop a force that size. But I believe I've found our salvation in humanity's past. Counselor Peters, a stern woman with gray hair pulled back in a tight bun, leaned forward. Captain Reed, we're facing an invasion, and you want to waste our time with history lessons. Not history, Counselor. Legend. Reed swiped his hand through the hologram, bringing up an old painting. It showed a massive ship, its hull decorated with strange patterns that seemed to bend the space around it. The Ghost of Thunder. Murmurs filled the chamber. Every child knew the story of humanity's first interstellar war, how a single ship had appeared from nowhere to save Earth's colonies from alien attackers, only to vanish without a trace afterward. It was a bedtime story, nothing more. I've spent the last 5 years studying every record from that period. Reed continued. Official logs, personal journals, sensor readings that were considered corrupted. The Ghost of Thunder wasn't just real. It was the most advanced ship humanity ever built. And I know where to find it. Councilor Martinez stood up, his voice sharp with anger. Enough. We don't have time for fairy tales. The alien fleet will reach our outer colonies in less than 2 weeks. We need real solutions, not wild goose chases based on children's stories. Reed had expected this reaction. He pulled up his final piece of evidence, a decoded transmission from a probe that had vanished 80 years ago. The hologram showed a massive object hidden in a field of gravitational distortions, its hull bearing the same strange patterns from the ancient painting. This image was captured in the Perseus Void, a region of spaceships a void due to dangerous gravitational anomalies. The probe disappeared seconds after transmitting this data, but not before its sensors recorded energy readings unlike anything in our database. The chamber grew quiet again, but this time the silence held a different quality. Even Martinez had sat down, staring at the image with newfound intensity. The Ghost of Thunder was real, Reed said, his voice firm with conviction. It wasn't destroyed or lost, it was hidden. The official records were erased, but its crew left breadcrumbs for future generations to follow. They knew someday humanity would need it again. First Officer Maria Blake stepped forward from her position behind Reed. She'd served with him for 3 years, and her practical nature balanced his occasional flights of fancy. Council members, I've reviewed the captain's research myself. The evidence is circumstantial but compelling. More importantly, we've confirmed the alien fleet's numbers. 537 warships, each larger than our biggest battleship. We can evacuate the outer colonies, but eventually they'll reach Earth. We need a miracle. And you think this ghost ship is our miracle? Peters asked, but her tone had lost some of its earlier dismissiveness. I think it's worth investigating, Blake replied. The Perseus Void is 4 days away at maximum speed. Captain Reed and I can take a small ship to investigate while the rest of the fleet prepares our defenses. If we're wrong, we've lost nothing but time. If we're right, she let the sentence hang. Everyone in the chamber knew what it could mean. The legends said the Ghost of Thunder had weapons that ignored shields, engines that bent space itself, defenses that made it virtually invulnerable. Even if half the stories were true, it might give them a fighting chance. The council members began discussing among themselves in hushed tones. Reed stood perfectly still, waiting. He'd spent 5 years putting these pieces together. following hints and clues others had dismissed. The answer had been there all along, hidden in plain sight, like the ship itself. After what felt like hours, Counselor Peters spoke. "Captain Reed, this is highly irregular. Under normal circumstances, we would dismiss this as the product of an overactive imagination. However," she glanced at the tactical display showing the approaching alien fleet, "these are not normal circumstances. You have 3 days to investigate the Perseus void. Take your fastest ship and a minimal crew. If you find nothing, you return immediately to help with the evacuation efforts." "And if we find the ghost of thunder?" Reed asked. "Then pray it's everything the legends claim it to be." Peter's expression hardened. "Because if you're wrong, if you've sent us on a futile quest, while our people need every ship and officer for the evacuation, you'll answer for it." Dismissed. Reed and Blake left the council chamber, their footsteps quick with purpose. As soon as they were out of earshot, Blake spoke in a low voice. 3 days isn't much time." "It's enough," Reed replied, pulling up the coordinates on his tablet. "I've already ordered the Thunderchild prepped for launch. Engineer Foster is checking the engines now. James Foster, the one they call the Miracle Worker." Reed nodded. "If we find the ghost of thunder, we'll need the best engineer in the fleet to help us understand it. Besides, he's one of the few people who didn't laugh when I first shared my theories." They reached the shipyard, where the sleek form of the Thunderchild waited. It was small but fast, perfect for navigating the treacherous gravitational fields of the Perseus void. Foster was waiting by the main airlock, his tools already packed and stored. "Council bought it then?" he asked, wiping grease from his hands. "Barely," Reed replied. "We launch in 2 hours. Everything ready." Foster nodded. "Modified the sensors like you asked. If there's anything out there bending space the way the legends describe, we'll detect it. Assuming we don't get torn apart by gravitational shear first." Reed looked at his 2 companions, Blake, the voice of reason who'd supported him despite her doubts, and Foster, the engineer who'd helped him modify equipment for a search others called pointless. They were risking everything on his theory, their careers and possibly their lives. "Last chance to back out," he offered. "This could be a wild goose chase, or worse." Blake smiled. "Someone has to keep you from doing anything too reckless." "Besides," Foster added, "if you're right, I want to be the first engineer to see what makes that ghost ship tick." Reed nodded, feeling the weight lift from his shoulders. After 5 years of research, of being called obsessed and delusional, he was finally going to prove the truth. Somewhere in the Perseus void, humanity's greatest creation was waiting to be found. They just had to reach it before the alien fleet reached Earth. The Thunderchild dropped out of faster-than-light travel with a flash of blue light. Through the main viewport, the Perseus void stretched before them, a vast region of space where stars seemed to dance and shift position. Gravitational forces twisted light itself, creating patterns that hurt the eyes if watched too long. "Sensors are already going crazy," Foster said from his engineering station. The displays in front of him flickered with rapidly changing numbers. "The gravitational distortions are stronger than any natural phenomenon I've ever seen." Reed stood from the captain's chair and walked to the front of the bridge. "That's because they're not natural. The ghost of thunder's creators used these distortions to hide it. The perfect defense, an area of space too dangerous for ships to enter." "Then how do we plan to enter it?" Blake asked, her hand steady on the navigation controls despite her concerned tone. Reed pulled up the decoded probe data on the main screen. "See these patterns in the gravity waves? They're not random. There's a path through them, like a tunnel in space. We just have to find the entrance." The Thunderchild moved forward slowly, its sensors mapping the invisible forces that could tear their ship apart in seconds. Foster had modified their sensors based on Reed's theories, looking for specific patterns in the chaos. Every few minutes, the ship would shudder as another gravity wave washed over it, hull stress increasing. Foster reported, "We can't take much more of this." "There," Reed pointed to a spot where the visual distortions seemed to form a spiral pattern. That's our entrance. The same pattern appears in 3 different ancient artworks depicting the ghost of thunder. Blake carefully adjusted their course. The Thunder Child's engines whined as they fought against the competing gravitational forces. Warning lights flashed across every console as they approached the spiral pattern. "If you're wrong about this," Blake said through gritted teeth, "we're about to become a very small debris field." Reed didn't answer. His eyes were fixed on the viewport, watching as space itself seemed to twist around them. The ship passed through the spiral pattern, and suddenly everything went quiet. The warning lights stopped flashing. The gravitational sensors showed normal readings. "We're inside," Reed breathed. "The gravity tunnel the ancient records mentioned. It's real." Foster whistled low. "These readings, it's like we're in a bubble of normal space surrounded by chaos. The engineering required to create something like this." "Track our position," Blake ordered. "If we need to get out fast, I want to know exactly where that entrance is." They proceeded deeper into the gravity tunnel, following its twisting path through the void. Hours passed as they navigated the invisible corridor. Reed checked and rechecked their position against his research notes, looking for the specific markers mentioned in the fragments of data he collected. A sudden alarm broke the tense silence. "Energy spike," Foster called out. "Something's scanning us." Before anyone could react, every screen on the bridge went dark. Then, one by one, they lit up with the same message. "Identify low or CLVs. Some kind of automated defense system," Blake said. "Should we respond?" Reed nodded. "This matches the probe's last transmission before it vanished. It must have failed whatever test this is." He opened a communication channel. "This is Captain Thomas Reed of the Earth Defense Force vessel Thunderchild. We seek the ghost of thunder." The screens flickered. "Purpose: Earth is in danger. An alien fleet approaches, too powerful for our current defenses. We need the ghost of thunder's help." There was a long pause. The screens remained dark for so long that Reed wondered if they'd failed the test too. Then new words appeared. "Proceed to Cugo or DINATs." A set of navigation points appeared on their map, leading deeper into the gravity tunnel. Blake looked at Reed questioningly. "Follow them," he ordered, "but keep our emergency thrusters ready, just in case." The Thunderchild moved forward again, following the provided route. The gravity tunnel grew wider, the invisible walls of their safe passage expanding until they could no longer see the chaotic void beyond. "Energy readings increasing," Foster reported. "Whatever's out there, it's big, really big." A massive shape began to emerge from the darkness ahead. At first, it looked like another visual distortion, but as they drew closer, details became clear. A hull of dark metal, covered in patterns that seemed to shift and move as they watched. The ship was easily twice the size of Earth's largest battleship, its design unlike anything they'd seen before. "The ghost of thunder," Reed whispered. After 5 years of searching, of being called crazy, it was right in front of him. "Multiple weapon systems detecting us," Blake reported. "If those are weapons, I've never seen energy signatures like these." "Look at the hull," Foster said, his voice filled with wonder. "Those patterns, they're not decorative. They're doing something to space itself. The sensors can't even tell how far away the ship really is." A new message appeared on their screens. "Docking procedure initiated." The Thunderchild moved forward on its own, guided by invisible forces toward a hangar bay that opened like a mouth in the massive ship's side. Reed felt his heart pounding. Everything he'd theorized, everything he'd pieced together from scattered records and dismissed sensor readings, was proving true. They passed through some kind of energy field and entered the hangar. The bay was huge, big enough to hold several ships their size, but it was empty except for their small vessel. The Thunderchild settled onto the deck with a gentle thud. Atmosphere readings are normal, Foster reported. Gravity too. The ship's systems are still active after all this time. Armed escort recommended, Blake said, checking readings from outside. We don't know what we'll find out there. Reed nodded. They each took a standard-issue energy pistol from the ship's armory, though he doubted such weapons would make any difference if the Ghost of Thunder decided they were a threat. The hangar was eerily silent as they stepped out of their ship. Their footsteps echoed off walls made of the same dark metal as the hull, covered in those strange, shifting patterns. Lights activated automatically as they walked, leading them toward a doorway. The patterns are everywhere, Foster said, scanning the walls with his tools. They're not static. There's energy flowing through them, but it's like nothing I've ever seen. The record said the Ghost of Thunder could bend space itself, Reed replied. These patterns must be part of that technology. They reached the doorway, which opened silently at their approach. Beyond it stretched a corridor that seemed to go on forever, its walls covered in the same flowing patterns. Well, Blake said, checking her weapon, we came all this way. Might as well see what's at the end of that corridor. Reed took a deep breath and stepped through the doorway. After centuries of waiting, the Ghost of Thunder had let them in. Now they just had to figure out how to wake it up before the alien fleet reached Earth's colonies. The door closed behind them with a soft hiss, and more lights activated ahead, beckoning them deeper into the legendary ship. The endless corridor finally opened into a vast circular chamber. Patterns on the walls pulsed with soft blue light, casting shifting shadows across banks of strange equipment. In the center of the room, a column of dark metal rose from floor to ceiling, covered in the same flowing designs they'd seen throughout the ship. This has to be the bridge, Reed said, moving toward the central column. His hand reached out to touch one of the patterns, but Blake caught his wrist. Maybe we shouldn't touch anything until we understand what we're dealing with, she warned. Foster was already scanning the room with his tools. These energy readings are off the charts. The whole ship is like a living machine. Power flowing through those patterns, but I can't tell what's controlling it. A deep hum filled the chamber. The patterns on the central column began to glow brighter, and a voice spoke from everywhere at once. I control it. The three humans spun around, weapons raised, but there was no one else in the room. The voice spoke again, seeming to come from the air itself. I am Guardian, the consciousness of this vessel. You seek our help against an alien threat. Reed lowered his weapon slowly. Yes, an invasion fleet approaches Earth. Our weapons won't be enough to stop them. And you believe this ship, as you call it, the Ghost of Thunder, can save your world. The voice held no emotion, just calm curiosity. The stories say you did it before, Reed replied. During humanity's first interstellar war. The patterns on the walls pulsed faster. Stories become legends. Legends become myths. But yes, this vessel was created to defend Earth. Tell me of this invasion fleet. Blake stepped forward. 537 warships, using technology we've never seen before. They've already destroyed 3 unmanned outposts. Our analysts say they'll reach the outer colonies in less than 2 weeks. Show me, Guardian commanded. A section of the wall shimmered, becoming a display screen. Blake connected her data tablet, sharing the sensor readings of the alien fleet. The chamber was silent for a long moment as Guardian processed the information. Then the central column's patterns shifted to a deep red. These energy signatures, I know them. The Harbinger Collective. They were ancient enemies even when I was created. You fought them before? Reed asked. Not these specific ships, but their kind, yes. They seek to harvest civilizations, take their resources and knowledge, then move on. They cannot be reasoned with. Foster had been studying the strange equipment around the room. This technology, it's incredible. The way it manipulates space itself. But why was it hidden away when Earth needed defenses like this? The patterns rippled, and Guardian's voice grew darker. Because some knowledge is too dangerous to be widely known. The quantum fold drive doesn't just move through space. It moves through time. Multiple moments existing at once. Probability itself becoming a weapon. My creators feared what would happen if such power fell into the wrong hands. But Earth is in danger now. Reed pressed. We need your help. Perhaps. Guardian's voice held a note of challenge. But first you must prove yourselves worthy. The last humans who found this place tried to seize control by force. They failed. The probe, Reed realized. That's what had happened to it 80 years ago. He took a deep breath. We're not here to seize anything. We're here to ask for help. To learn. Pretty words, Guardian replied. But words are easy. Actions reveal truth. Your ship's weapons are still armed. Your personal weapons are still drawn. Do you come as students or conquerors? Reed looked at Blake and Foster, then back at the central column. Slowly, deliberately, he placed his weapon on the floor. We come to learn. To understand. The human race has grown since this ship was hidden. We've learned from our mistakes. Blake hesitated, then set her weapon down too. Foster had already put his away, too fascinated by the technology around them to care about weapons. The patterns in the room shifted from red back to blue. A good beginning, Guardian said. Now, let me show you what this vessel truly is. The floor beneath them became transparent, revealing more levels below filled with massive machinery. The walls showed images of space outside, but distorted, as if they were seeing multiple versions at once. The quantum fold drive creates bubbles of space-time, Guardian explained. We can exist in multiple moments simultaneously, making us virtually impossible to hit. Our weapons strike across probability itself, finding the perfect angle of attack in infinite possible futures. Foster's eyes were wide with wonder. That's how you defeated entire fleets. You're not just one ship. You're dozens of versions of the same ship, all fighting at once. Correct. But such power requires perfect control. A single mistake could tear reality apart. That is why I was created, an artificial mind fast enough to comprehend and direct these forces. Reed walked slowly around the central column, studying the patterns. The stories say you vanished after the war. Why didn't you stay to protect Earth? Because humanity wasn't ready for this knowledge, Guardian replied. You would have tried to duplicate it, to build more ships like this one. The risk was too great. So we withdrew, leaving only legends to be found when humanity had matured enough to use this power wisely. A new alarm sounded through the chamber. The wall displays showed a massive energy surge in the gravity tunnel they'd navigated earlier. More ships approach, Guardian announced. Not human designs. Blake rushed to check the readings. It's an advanced scout force from the invasion fleet. They must have detected our entry into the void. 3 alien warships emerged from the gravity tunnel, their hulls covered in sharp angles and weapon ports. Each one was larger than the Thunder Child, their designs matching the approaching invasion fleet. They'll report our position, Blake said. The whole fleet will know where to find us, if we let them report anything. Reed turned to the central column. Guardian, we need your help. Not just to fight the main fleet, but right now. Those scouts will lead them straight to us before we're ready. The patterns across the entire chamber pulsed with energy. You ask me to reveal myself, to demonstrate powers that have been hidden for centuries. Are you certain humanity is ready for such knowledge to be known again? Reed stood straight, facing the central column. We're ready to learn, to understand the responsibility this power brings. But first we have to survive. Please, help us protect Earth. The chamber hummed with increasing power. Guardian's voice held a new tone. Anticipation. Very well. You have shown wisdom in seeking understanding rather than control. Now witness what the Ghost of Thunder can truly do. The entire ship came alive around them, patterns blazing with light as ancient weapons powered up for the first time in centuries. Through the transparent walls, they watched as reality itself began to bend. The legend was about to become real again. The Ghost of Thunder moved with impossible grace for a ship its size. The patterns across its hull blazed with energy as the quantum fold drive engaged. Through the transparent walls of the bridge, Reed watched in awe as reality split around them. Multiple probability shells forming, Guardian announced, preparing to engage hostile vessels. Foster stared at the readings on his display. The ship is existing in 5 different moments simultaneously, each version slightly out of phase with our timeline. The 3 alien scout ships spread out, their weapons charging. Green energy gathered at their gun ports, preparing to fire. But they seemed confused, their sensors unable to get a clear lock on the Ghost of Thunder. They can't target us properly, Blake realized. Each of their scans is picking up a different version of the ship. Correct, Guardian replied. Now, observe how we fight. The Ghost of Thunder's weapons came online. Instead of conventional energy beams or projectiles, streams of shifting blue light emerged from ports along its hull. As the weapons fired, Reed saw something incredible. Each beam split into multiple versions, following different paths through space. The alien ships fired first, their green energy beams lancing out toward the Ghost of Thunder. But the beams passed harmlessly through empty space. The legendary ship wasn't there, and was there, all at once. The quantum fold drive lets us see all possible paths of their attacks, Guardian explained. We simply ensure we are not in any position where their weapons can hit us. The Ghost of Thunder's response was devastating. Those blue energy streams curved through space in impossible ways, each beam existing in multiple probabilities at once. When they struck the first alien ship, they hit from 5 different angles simultaneously. The alien vessel's shields flared and failed instantly, its hull cracking apart as weapons fire struck it from positions that should have been impossible to attack from. Amazing, Foster breathed. The weapons aren't just hitting them. They're striking across multiple timelines, finding the perfect angle of attack in each one. The remaining 2 alien ships tried to retreat, but the Ghost of Thunder was already moving to intercept. In the void of space, afterimages of the massive ship appeared and disappeared, each one as real as the original. The second alien vessel found itself surrounded by 3 versions of the Ghost of Thunder, each one firing from a different point in space-time. Its shields held for exactly 2 seconds before collapsing. The hull lasted another 3 seconds before breaking apart. The final scout ship turned to run, its engines flaring bright as it attempted to escape. But the Ghost of Thunder simply appeared ahead of it, or had always been there, reality bending around the quantum fold drive's power. Please, a voice crackled over the communication system. We surrender. We. The alien ship exploded as multiple weapon streams converged on it from different moments in time. Hostiles eliminated, Guardian announced. The patterns across the bridge pulsed with energy as the probability shells collapsed back into a single timeline. Reed felt a chill run down his spine. The entire battle had lasted less than a minute. 3 advanced warships destroyed without the Ghost of Thunder taking a single hit. The stories hadn't exaggerated its power. If anything, they'd understated it. You killed them, Blake said quietly. They were trying to surrender. They were trying to deceive, Guardian corrected. Their communications contained a hidden transmission pattern. They were attempting to signal the main fleet with our exact coordinates. Foster looked up from his readings. Guardian's right. I caught it too. A burst transmission hidden in the surrender message. They weren't giving up. They were calling for reinforcements. Reed walked to the central column. How long until the main fleet knows we're here? The transmission was interrupted before completion, Guardian replied. But they will investigate when these scouts fail to report in. We have perhaps 2 days before they arrive in force. Then we need to be ready, Reed said. Guardian, you've shown us what this ship can do. But we'll be facing hundreds of vessels, not just 3. Can we win against those numbers? The patterns across the bridge shifted through various colors as Guardian considered. Victory is possible, but not guaranteed. The quantum fold drive allows us to be in multiple places at once, but there are limits. Against 3 ships, we could maintain 5 probability shells. Against hundreds, we'd need many more. Foster finished. The power requirements would be enormous. Indeed, and the complexity increases exponentially with each additional shell. Even my systems have limits to how many simultaneous timelines they can process. Blake studied the tactical display showing the void around them. We need a plan, a way to use your advantages without being overwhelmed by their numbers. First, Reed said, we need to understand exactly what this ship can do. Guardian, you've shown us the quantum fold drive in combat, but what other systems do you have? The legend spoke of other weapons, other technologies. The chamber's displays change, showing schematics of the Ghost of Thunder's various systems. My creators built this vessel to be more than just a warship, Guardian explained. The quantum fold drive can be used for more than combat. We can create stable time bubbles, areas where we can think and plan while the outside universe moves more slowly. We can also generate temporal shields around other ships. Protection, Blake said thoughtfully. We could defend the colonies while we fight. Yes, but each protected location requires power and focus, reducing our combat effectiveness. Foster had been studying the schematics carefully. These other weapons, they're not just probability-based attacks. Some of them seem to affect space itself. Correct. We can create localized gravity wells to trap enemy ships, generate temporal distortions that age their hulls until they break apart, even teleport short distances by folding space around us. Reed felt hope rising in his chest. The Ghost of Thunder was even more powerful than he'd imagined, but that power came with responsibility. The kind of responsibility his ancestors hadn't been ready for. We have 2 days, he said finally. 2 days to learn everything we can about this ship's capabilities. To plan our strategy. Guardian, will you teach us? The patterns on the central column pulsed with bright blue light. You continue to impress me, Captain Reed. You seek understanding before power. Yes, I will teach you. But remember, the quantum fold drive bends reality itself. One mistake, one miscalculation, could tear space and time apart. Then we'll be careful, Reed replied. We'll learn, and when the invasion fleet arrives, we'll be ready. The Ghost of Thunder hung silently in the void, its hull patterns flowing with energy as it prepared to share its secrets with its new crew. Somewhere out there, hundreds of alien warships were preparing to attack Earth. They had no idea what was waiting for them. The invasion fleet filled the void with their dark shapes. 537 warships, their hulls bristling with weapons, advanced in perfect formation. At their center, a massive command ship dwarfed its escorts. Its surface rippled with green energy as its sensors probed the space ahead. On the Ghost of Thunder's bridge, Reed watched the enemy approach. 2 days of intensive training had taught them much about their legendary vessel's capabilities, but seeing the full invasion force was still intimidating. They're moving faster than expected, Blake reported from her station. They'll be in weapons range in 10 minutes. Foster's hands moved across his engineering controls. Power systems at maximum. Ready to generate up to 12 probability shells, but maintaining that many will drain our reserves quickly. Remember the plan, Reed said. We don't try to fight them all at once. Guardian, are you ready? The patterns across the bridge pulsed with confident blue light, all systems prepared. The quantum fold drive is at full power. Time bubbles are ready for deployment around the colonial outposts. The alien fleet suddenly halted. A transmission cut through their communications. Unknown vessel, a harsh voice spoke. I am Admiral Kraz of the Harbinger Collective. Your technology is interesting. Surrender now, and we will study it thoroughly before we destroy you. Reed smiled grimly. Guardian, show them our answer. The Ghost of Thunder's hull blazed with energy as the quantum fold drive engaged. Reality split around them as probability shells formed, each one containing a fully realized version of the legendary ship. But instead of attacking immediately, they implemented their carefully prepared strategy. The first 3 probability shells split off, each ghost of thunder appearing near a different colonial outpost. Temporal shields sprang into existence around the colonies, protecting them from what was to come. The remaining shells faced the invasion fleet. Colonial shields holding, Blake reported. 3 shells maintaining defensive positions. 9 shells remaining for combat, Foster added. Power distribution stable. Admiral Kraz's voice came again, now tinged with anger. So the legends were true. The ghost of thunder lives. No matter. No single ship can stand against our might. All ships, open fire. Green energy beams lanced out from hundreds of weapons, filling space with deadly light. But the ghost of thunder was ready. Its probability shells shifted and moved, each version of the ship sliding between moments of time where the enemy fire couldn't reach them. Beginning attack pattern Alpha, Guardian announced. The ghost of thunder's response was devastating. 9 versions of the ship attacked simultaneously, each one targeting a different section of the enemy fleet. Their quantum weapons struck across multiple timelines, finding vulnerable points that shouldn't have existed. Alien ships began exploding as their hulls were hit by weapons fire from impossible angles. Their shields, designed to block attacks from normal space, were useless against weapons that struck from multiple points in time simultaneously. First wave of targets eliminated, Blake called out. 37 enemy ships destroyed. They're breaking formation. The invasion fleet scattered, trying to surround the ghost of thunder's probability shells. But that was exactly what they planned for. As the enemy ships spread out, Guardian activated the next phase of their attack. Space itself began to twist as the ghost of thunder's gravity weapons came online. Localized singularities appeared throughout the enemy fleet, trapping dozens of ships in their pull. Other vessels aged centuries in seconds as temporal distortions washed over them, their hulls crumbling to dust. You cannot win. Kraz's voice roared over the communications. We are the Harbinger Collective. We have destroyed 1,000 civilizations. Not today. Reed replied. Guardian, execute final attack pattern. The 9 combat shells of the Ghost of Thunder moved in perfect synchronization. Space folded around them as they teleported through the enemy formation, their quantum weapons firing continuously. Each probability shell targeted a specific group of enemy ships, preventing any from escaping the assault. Foster's hands flew across his controls, managing the massive power requirements. Shell integrity holding. Power reserves at 60% and dropping. The massive command ship finally moved to engage, its weapons more powerful than anything they'd faced before. Green energy beams thick as buildings sliced through space, actually managing to graze one of the probability shells. Minor damage to Shell 7, Guardian reported. Adjusting power distribution. Reed gripped his chair as the ship shuddered. Focus fire on their flagship. All shells, maximum weapons power. 9 versions of the Ghost of Thunder turned to face Kraz's command ship. Their quantum weapons combined into a single massive strike, hitting the massive vessel from 9 different points in space-time simultaneously. The command ship's shields flared brilliant green as they tried to resist. For a moment, it seemed they might hold. Then reality itself cracked around the quantum weapon's impact points. The shields shattered, and the hull began to break apart. No, Kraz's final transmission cut off as his ship exploded in a massive green fireball. The remaining enemy ships fell into chaos without their admiral. Some tried to flee, others continued fighting, but the outcome was already decided. The Ghost of Thunder's probability shells moved through their formation like avenging spirits, quantum weapons striking with surgical precision. Enemy fleet at 20% strength, Blake reported. They're beginning full retreat. Let them run, Reed ordered. Guardian, maintain defensive shells around the colonies, but power down the others. No need to waste energy hunting them. The probability shells collapsed one by one, until only the 3 defending the colonies remained. The rest of the invasion fleet fled into faster-than-light travel, leaving their dead and dying ships behind. The bridge was quiet for a moment as they processed what had just happened. Then Foster broke the silence. A single ship just defeated an armada. The legends didn't do it justice. The quantum fold drive performed beyond expectations, Guardian said. And you used its capabilities wisely. My creators would be proud to see their work used with such responsibility. Reed stood from his chair, looking at the debris field that had been the invasion fleet. What happens now? The ghost of thunder can't stay hidden anymore. Too many people saw what happened here. The patterns across the bridge shifted thoughtfully. Perhaps it is time for humanity to learn these secrets properly. Not all at once, but gradually. Under guidance, you have shown wisdom in how you use this power, to protect rather than conquer. You'll stay? Blake asked. Help us understand. Yes. The time of legends is past. Now we must face the future together and teach humanity to use these gifts responsibly. Foster grinned. The Council's going to have quite a surprise when we return. Speaking of return, Blake said, we should check on those colonies we protected. Make sure the temporal shields didn't have any unexpected effects. Reed nodded, but his mind was already racing ahead to the future. The ghost of thunder was no longer just a myth. It was real, and with it came both power and responsibility. Humanity would have to learn to handle both. Guardian, he said, set course for the nearest colony. We have a lot of work ahead of us. The legendary ship's patterns pulsed with agreement as it moved through space, its quantum fold drive humming with power. The myth had become reality, and the universe would never be quite the same again.